All right, looks like we're live. I'm here with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
Hello, everyone.
And Matt Forney's joining us too.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
Indeed. Let me go ahead and read this. All right, so a couple of things I want to talk about. I got caught up on the CW superhero shows. They just had their big Crisis on Earth X crossover. And I'm not going to go on and on about it forever because I know a lot of you don't watch it, but there are a few interesting things about it I want to talk about. The basic premise is Flash and Arrow take place in the same world as does the show Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl's in a separate world, but because there's an established multiverse going on, they interact with each other in like parallel universe sense. So the premise is Flash is marrying his girlfriend, and all his superhero buddies are invited to the wedding, even Supergirl. And I actually really like this part because I like in sci-fi when it shows that the fantastic has become just normal and accepted in this fictional world. Because, you know, Supergirl she's in her apartment with her sister. Her sister's a dyke because that show paused like nothing you can believe. I don't watch that show generally. So she's sitting there, and I guess they both broke up with people or something, and they're sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. And they're debating whether or not to go to a wedding. And I mean, it's a wedding that her friend who lives in a different universe invited her to. And this is just talked about like it's nothing. And when they finally decide to go, she literally just pulls this little like remote off the coffee table and pushes a button and opens a dimensional portal in her apartment like it's nothing. And I really like that in fiction. So they all go to the wedding, and the wedding is crashed by people from another universe where everything is run by Nazis, and including Nazi versions of Supergirl and Arrow. And in fact, the Nazi version of Arrow is actually the Fuhrer, and the Nazi version of Supergirl is the General. And part of the reason they're invading is they want to steal Supergirl's heart because the evil Supergirl needs a heart transplant because she's dying. And what better donor than your genetic duplicate? So it was pretty good as far as these shows go. There were actually some really awesome moments. There was a lot of bullshit virtue signaling her Durham punching a Nazi shit, and the third episode in it is paused like you wouldn't believe. Like we actually see on the Nazi Earth, like, oh, they're rounding up and killing the gays, which I mean, I don't buy that Nazis want to kill the gays. I mean, half the Nazis I know of in life today are gay. So I mean, have you seen Richard Spencer? If anything, it'd be rounding up the breeders. The other thing in it that I thought was funny, and it's really funny what the show accidentally said. So there's a character called Captain Cold who lives on Earth 1, right? And we find Captain Cold's counterpart on the Nazi Earth X. Now on Earth 1, Captain Cold is straight. But in Earth 1, yeah, Captain Cold is straight. On Earth X, Captain Cold is gay. Now take a minute and think about what the show just accidentally said about gay people. When your exact duplicate from another universe is gay and you're not, doesn't that kind of indicate being gay isn't genetic?
Oi.
So I just thought it was funny that this stupid bit of virtue signaling kind of accidentally said something very un-PC.
It also says a lot of uncomfortable things about the prevalence of homosexuality among the far right. Richard Spencer, Grinder Greg Johnson, Stedman.
It's kind of funny, though, that like I'm looking at Nazis and I no longer really buy the idea that they'd be adamant against gays. Like I'm not buying that at all anymore. Like I'm looking at this, I'm like, they're not rounding up fags. If anything, half their higher ups are probably gonna be fags.
Well, maybe I'm slightly unusual, but because back when I was a teenager, I knew about Ernst Röhm and how the SS were basically a bunch of homosexuals who liked beating people, which is kind of redundant, but yeah.
I also thought it was funny, or pleasantly surprised, I should say, that they didn't try and portray the Nazis as some sort of far right Christians like you see in some Hollywood shit sometimes. If anything, the Nazis were just like the Nazi era was like vehemently atheistic. He was pure social Darwinist, and I mean, at one point screams at another character, "There is no God."
Ooh.
Hang on one second.
Although it is kind of funny, because that's not absurd at all for Nazis to embrace homosexuality. Because I mean, this is the same political ideology that suggested that Arabs and the Japanese had some Aryan strain in them. What a coincidence!
I thought it was a pretty good crossover. Like I said, there was a couple of the faggot stuff in it was annoying, and I knew there was going to be all sorts of bullshit like Durham punching a Nazi virtue signaling. Like I knew that's almost a shame. Like I'm never going to be able to see Nazis in fiction ever again without that sort of bullshit in it.
Oh yeah, every single Nazi flag will have a rainbow on it now.
Yeah. But it was a pretty decent little show. I enjoyed it. I'm so sick of the fags and everything now. Like every fucking character's got to be gay anymore. It's so annoying.
It's boring, is what it is.
These are why is 3% of the population in 90% of my television shows? Which I shouldn't even. I mean, I watch like 3 shows, so I miss when TV was watchable. So speaking of TV, good old Matt Lauer.
Oh yes,
he will not be working on the Today Show anymore. So Forney was telling me apparently the guy had a button in his desk that locked the door remotely in his office.
Please tell me that was for panic button reasons.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't believe it was, Luke. I don't believe it was. Though I'm sure panic was involved, just not on his end.
Yeah, I just pulled out the quote here. It says, I don't know what source this is from. I got this from the Duck's Gab feed. Lauer, who was paranoid about being followed by tabloid reporters, grew more emboldened at 30 Rockefeller Center as his profile rose following Katie Couric's departure from Today in 2006. His office was in a secluded space, and he had a button under his desk that allowed him to lock his door from the inside without getting up. This afforded him the assurance of privacy. It allowed him to welcome female employees and initiate inappropriate contact while knowing nobody could walk in on him, according to 2 women who were sexually harassed by Lauer. As the Duck put it, Harvey Weinstein confirmed as sexual harassment amateur and Matt Lauer proven to be the true master of the dark art.
So you're saying it's the Virgin Harvey versus the Chad Matt?
Yeah, he had another good line here. He says, Matt Lauer, are you saying I'll be able to lock the door from across the room? PUA coach. No, Matt. I'm saying that that if you learn some proper game, you won't need to lock the door at all.
But the flip side of that is if you lock the door, you don't have to learn game. So he's thinking.
Insert meme of the black guy thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and again, this is another one of these shit-lib journalists who wants to lecture us all about how the world should be.
Yeah, the Matt Lauer only sticks in my head because of that one scene from that Back in Time movie. Because he's in an interview with Will Ferrell's character, he says, "You know what this means? Yeah, Matt Lauer can suck it."
Today we also had another casualty in the great sexual harassment hysteria of 2017. Garrison Keillor was fired by Minnesota Public Radio for sexual harassment allegations. We haven't heard what those sexual allegations are so far, but I'm pretty sure they involve scat. I'm just basing this on appearance and. Oh, okay. I fucking hate Garrison Keillor. Okay,
right.
My dad was a fan of A Prairie Home Companion. And I grew up listening to this moron's stupid humor, Garrison Keillor, this stupid show every Saturday. It's faux intellectual humor for midwits who want to pretend that they're smart. And he worked, and of course he worked in public radio because he was too much of a hack to work in the private sector. Good fucking.
I'm just saying. I mean, if I was like, filming an episode of like a Law and Order show and I needed to cast a pedophile, this guy's got the part.
Yeah, he looks disturbingly like what's his face? Truman Capote, the fucking gay dude.
Oh yeah. Yep.
How I feel about Garrison Keillor, it's the episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson's watching Garrison Keillor and he starts screaming and shaking at his TV, going, "Stupid TV, be funny."
Why is everybody laughing? They didn't say anything funny. Maybe the TV's broken. Oh, I miss when The Simpsons was good. Somebody in the chat is asking if I have an Amazon wish list. I really haven't. I haven't put up an Amazon wish list. No, I feel weird about doing that. Although
you're not a FinDom nationalist, so
yeah, I'm not FinDom nationalism over here. I come to find out though why a lot of the e-celebrities do put up a wish list is it's a good way to get stuff coming in and kind of dodge taxes, which I respect that. So I don't know. Maybe I come to find out I did have one set up because it was like years ago. My buddies and I all set up like wish lists just so we know stuff we all want for Christmas from each other, like get something from this list kind of thing. And I just never deleted it.
Now you can make like separate ones. You can make like private ones, public ones, etc. I have a wish list enabled on my site, but I've never actually put anything on it, so it's useless.
So he says, does Amazon sell rate buttons for your desk? Yeah, I need to get one of those. I need to get me a button that shuts the door from my desk.
I'm sure there's a market for that somewhere.
No, apparently, at least one guy had it. You're guaranteed to sell at least one. So yeah, they continue to implode with this shit. Speaking of implosions, holy shit! Like Jordan Peterson has allowed himself to get triggered as fuck by white nationalists.
Which is unfortunate because one Jordan Peterson lecture is worth about twice the entire oeuvre of the alt-right at this point.
Oh, hell yeah. And I've said this before, because when I first started to see this crop up, I was like, look, I know a lot of you white I get it. He's kind of blue-pilled on race. That's kind of lame. But, if you take a 17-year-old little white kid, you have him listen to Jordan Peterson for a year, and you have another one listen to like fucking Weave and Richard Spencer for a year. Which one do you think's going to be better off?
Well, we kind of already have the answer to that question because we have the products of people who listen to Richard Spencer for a year, plowing into cars at rallies and getting into gay sex orgies in the name of Odin.
And look, don't get me wrong. I realize a lot of the white nationalists can be, I'm going to be polite and say frustrating to deal with. I mean, you should see on Gab right now, Ricky Vaughn, who I follow. He's just basically been like thinking out loud about how there needs to be more practical political solutions. And he was thinking about how like you could frame things as, we're going to attack concentrated sources of power like K Street and Wall Street and the banks and Hollywood. And, if you're all big on the Jew question, that sort of addresses it without really addressing it. And it doesn't alienate people. And I mean, he's just getting called, who's a cock, you milk, whatever. He's getting spurred out by people who just are not listening to him.
The average IQ of the alt right now is probably somewhere around 90, 92. All the smart people are gone, and repetition through the constant use of memes has dulled their ability to think. Plus, marginal movements attract marginal people. At least 60, 65% of the alt-right, probably more, was looking for any excuse to dump Trump. That's why they all lost their minds over the Syria strikes. We're being betrayed. And you got some people on I'm not going to name names. If you got some people, alt-righters now, are still going, Trump betrayed us. The wall's not going to get built. I don't read the news because it's too depressing. He cucked out. It's time to go full 1488. These people are looking. They want to be losers. They want to be losers. You know, instead of being positive and finding ways to work within the system, and there are ways for all of you idiots who are all like, well, dude, you don't do anything for it. You can't criticize people for not doing anything. There are ways to get power within the system. Instead of being productive, they want to grandstand. They want to have stupid rallies. They want to make fun of normies, the same normies they need if they ever want to succeed, and they want to further isolate themselves from the rest of humanity.
I got news for you. If you think at this point that there's no working within the system, period, then you shouldn't be having stupid ass fucking rallies and be really, really public on gab and shit. What you'd need to do at that point is be A, stockpiling weapons and bullets and ammunition and food. B, hitting the fucking gym every day. And then C, and this is a very distant C, maybe shit posting on the internet. Actually, no, that's D, because C is getting in touch with people, like-minded people in the actual fucking meat space and making connections. All this shit about, well, I can't work within the system, so I'm going to shit post on Gab. Yeah, that's real fucking useful. If you really think the system is that far gone, then you better be a fucking prepper. Because the only if political, peaceful change is impossible, then the only other option you have is pretty clear. But they don't even take that, because that requires fucking courage.
Effort.
And also,
courage and effort.
Yeah, it requires you to do something other than be a fat waste of space. It's like they're completely wrong as well. I mean, the whole victory of Trump and nationalism, the foothold it's gotten in the Republican Party, is because people realize that you could work within the system. Here are some things you could be doing right now to help advance nationalism within the system in a way that's more productive than marching around, chanting, "He will not divide us. He will not." Oh, I'm sorry. I meant, "You will not replace us." I get my dumb reductivist slogans confused sometimes. But anyway, here's some examples. Phone bank for a local nationalist Republican candidate in your area. You've got candidates like Paul Nehlen running in Paul Ryan's district. You got the Roy Moore campaign down in Alabama. You got all these great nationalists like Kelly Ward, etc., running for Senate, representative, governor positions, whatever. Phone bank for them. Join the campaign. You can get involved in local politics by running for city council, village trustee, school board, stuff like that. That's what. If you think that sounds boring and that it won't get you anywhere near the close to power, I hate to break it to you guys. That's what the left did. That's what the left did. That's how they got into power. They did the fucking work. They started at the school board and the community organizing level to get things together, and now they run the country. You're not going to post your way into the God Emperor seat without doing the goddamn work. And you have a lot of people in this movement who don't want to do the goddamn work. They just want to press F to win. I mean, well, they want to press F to win, but instead they're just saying press F to pay respects. That's what they've basically done.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, that's boring. Of course, it's boring. Doing the work is boring. Going to work is boring. Going to the gym is boring. Trying to get your shit together is boring. If it was fun, everybody would be doing it.
But by the way, to respond to Coriolanus Rex, he's asking us what 1488 is and why it's such a white nationalist tagline. 1488, 14 refers to the 14 words, we must secure a future for our people, an existence for our people, and a future for white children. And 88 refers to HH, which is Hail Hitler. Because H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. Yes, it's stupid. It's as stupid and autistic as it sounds.
Yep. We must secure a future for white bathhouses. The existence of white bathhouses and a future for white pos loads.
Also, to respond to Waffle in the comments, his comment is... most conservatives shy away from activism because their lives are actually busy. But yeah, I get your point, Forney. You have a point, but there are perfectly examples of successful right-wing activism. The most successful example is guns. The gun debate in this country has moved so far to the right in the past 20 years past 30 years, it's remarkable. It's probably the only major political issue on which the public opinion has moved to the right. Okay, because about 25 years ago, back in '94, we had the assault weapons ban. You had these shootings, and the government was able to get a ban on certain types of weapons through at the federal level. Now the government can't even think of proposing gun control legislation on the federal level without the NRA losing their shit, without the constituents losing their minds. Concealed carry laws used to be almost non-existent going back to the 80s. Now, all but 8 states have some form of concealed carry legislation. In fact, some states now are moving to open carry legislation where you can openly carry your gun on you, and that's perfectly legal. That's because at the grassroots level, conservative gun enthusiasts networked. Okay, they networked. They got involved in politics. They got influencing legislatures, running their own people, punishing anti-gun legislatures, and as a result, the gun industry, the gun lobby, the gun enthusiasts in this country wield a lot of power. They did the fucking work. There's no reason why nationalists or any other group on the right couldn't do the same thing.
I love that lemonade stand thing with everybody's head guy has a gun. It's just fantastic. And you're right. The NRA has accomplished a great deal, and they've put in the work. They network, they raise the money. They're tireless about it. And, the left. I mean, it doesn't matter how many fake shootings the left stages. They don't get anywhere in this debate.
Yeah, the NRA is so successful that Obama had to initiate a secret plot to arm Mexican cartels with American weapons to create a false flag event in order to hopefully raise support for gun control legislation, because he couldn't get it through the regular way because of the NRA. I'm referring to Fast and Furious if most of you don't get the reference.
Yes. And he did that. There's no denying that.
You could do this for abortion. You could do this for immigration. You could do this for any number of issues. The problem is, the people who are passionate about these issues in the alt-right, they don't want to do the fucking work. They don't want to do the fucking work.
Well, again, and I said this on Gab, I was like, I'm watching these people argue with Ricky Vaughn, and I just, you have to look at them and say, do they want to win? Because, I mean, this guy isn't arguing with, any of your actual positions. He's arguing with tactics, saying, I think this would win better. And they're like, they just re at him.
Well, it's like when people like Richard Spencer got all pissy when Andrew Anglin proposed that the alt-right just abandon that label and regroup under American nationalism. What Anglin was saying made perfect sense, because at the time, and the left is still is basically being a patriot and being an American nationalist and waving the flag and being proud of America as synonymous with Nazism. That is handing the right a massive strategic victory, because there are tons of Americans who may not necessarily be, hip to nationalist ideas or whatever, but they're patriots. They love their country. They do the anthem, etc. And now they're being tarred as Nazis. So what Anglin was proposing to just merge everything under the American nationalist label for purely strategic reasons, not even change their ideas, just do this, was made perfect sense. But people like Richard Spencer was like, yeah, America's dead. We can't do anything in the political system. It's over, man. It's over.
It's almost like Richard Spencer has the copyright to a site named alt-right, and that was his primary concern.
Yeah, well, these people are born losers. Well, the alt-right, again, had a dead cat bounce in terms of that's what it was last year, a dead cat bounce. They were riding Trump's wave, and they willingly jumped off when Daddy didn't respond to their tantrums, and now they're sitting in the corner alone and ignored, and nobody's listening.
Well, I actually saw some survey or something like that, and it was getting passed around for a while, where it showed that, most people surveyed said they hated the alt-right. And then when asked about actual positions, a large number of the alt-right's quote-unquote are more or less positions most people agreed with. So the brand is poison, and the ideas are gaining traction. So yeah, I mean, it makes perfect strategic sense to try and separate the ideas from the brand, unless, of course, you happen to hold financial interest in the, in the brand.
Yeah, I think the specific number was like 31% of Americans agree with the positions of the alt-right in preserving white identity, but only 6% of Americans support the alt-right. That is a catastrophic failure of branding. That is a catastrophic failure of image and optics. It could possibly be the biggest advertising fuck-ups in the history of political movements. It's on the level of New Coke.
Well, to reference what we were talking about earlier, when you've allowed yourself to be portrayed as fucking Earth X, yeah, nobody's going to like that. But that's not actually what you're saying. It's like, gee, shock. People don't like the cartoon villains that fight Indiana Jones and Captain America. Who would have thought? You might as well brand yourself as Cobra from G.I. Joe. Only that might actually be more popular. Spencer might get more fucking mainstream appeal if he just dressed like Cobra Commander all the time. Talked with a hiss in his voice all the time, rather than that lisp. It would be probably get him a little more. Yeah, see that right there? That's way cooler. Yeah, that's what you should do, Spencer. Get yourself a nice Cobra staff and everything.
Now you got me thinking of like the live action G.I. Joe movie when Cobra Commander comes out at the end.
Yeah.
The only good part of
after
that
giving what's his face an injection that mysteriously turns his fucking head silver.
That movie was so bad.
Well, the first one was better than the second.
I thought the second one was tolerable. The first one was awful. I don't know how you fuck G.I. Joe up that bad. It's something that seems pretty easy to do in live action.
I mainly remember the first one because I watched it in a truck stop while I was hitchhiking years ago, and I was watching it. Well, I wasn't really watching it. I was trying to sleep, but ended up watching parts and bits of it anyway, and ended up having really bad nightmares due to all the visual effects.
Oh, great. Now I can't get the voice out of my head.
You fools! We must secure the existence of our people and our future white children.
That's fantastic. Like I said, that would people would probably like that more.
What's that one show? Race is trying to get. You're introduced me to this character like the Ghost Supremacy, Fright Supremacy, and the enemy is a Richard Spector.
What is this?
It's a show called the I don't forget what the title of the show is, but it's called Fright Supremacy, and the opposite. It's like a joke on white supremacy, and the enemy of it is like the
alt-right.
Alt-right, and the main enemy is Richard Spector because he's a ghost who's trying to mislead people in the movement. Like the movement is like everyone's becoming a ghost. Everyone dies and becomes a ghost, and that's the future, and so everyone needs to embrace that.
All hail Blue Whale.
People are bringing up Cantwell in the chat, and I talked earlier, like what happens when a kid is watching these the more, I hate to use the phrase toxic, but yes, toxic elements of the alt-right, and what happens if they were just listening to Peterson lectures? Well, I mean, Cantwell's a good example of this. Look, I loved Cantwell's show. He seemed like a really cool guy. I really hope he gets his shit together here. But let's face facts. The guy's a little bit, shall we say, impressionable. All right. So he's almost the perfect model of that fictional 17-year-old kid. And he threw his lot in pretty hard with these guys. And it basically wrecked his fucking life. Now, I mean, he was in a rough place before. He had gotten, woman problems and fallen back into a drug habit and all. But he was kind of starting to slowly turn around and maybe maybe make his peace with his maker. And then all of a sudden, he's getting his dumb ass arrested for Richard Spencer's, wonderful little rally. I don't think it really panned out all that well for him. And again, I can't help but notice that Spencer isn't arrested. Spencer's not being deplatformed. He's not throwing off nothing.
Well, he lost his blue check mark, but...
Oh, he lost his blue check mark. Meanwhile, Cantwell was thrown off of everything from YouTube to OkCupid.
Yeah, if we get into talking about net neutrality, that's kind of a... Isn't it weird how such disparate platforms as a social media website, a payment processor, and a fucking dating app all have the same opinions on what is considered objectionable, and they all ban someone simultaneously? Isn't that just weird? I didn't think that was supposed to happen in a free market. I didn't think that was supposed to happen in a place where, in an environment where free enterprise was supposed to be taking place. It's almost like they're colluding. But nah, that can't be happening.
We have legislation that prevents that.
That's the thing. I mean, these companies, they're going to pitch a really big fit in the next few months as net neutrality gets revoked. And, I mean, they have nobody but themselves to blame. Even if you think net neutrality was, quote unquote, largely a good thing, you'd have to accept the fact that companies like Twitter and Facebook and Google gave the FCC the excuse necessary to do away with it.
It always bugs me when they try to make these. There have been horrible memes and illustrations that illustrate these points, and there's another example because you think that these images would just illustrate that if you want big internet access, you need to pay more because if you're using more services, you got to pay more money.
Yeah, and if this costs Google a few extra dollars on YouTube, I don't care. Oh, well, they might take your videos down because they don't get a lot of views. All right, well, maybe they will. But before that, they were going to take down my videos because I was to the right of Karl Marx. So what the fuck difference does it make? That's the thing. I'm not seeing how it's benefiting me one way or another. If these companies were actually promoters of free expression and free speech and really were the thing that they are supposed to be, that most of them started out claiming they were, then I would support net neutrality. But I'm not going to give out what is basically, let's be real, corporate welfare to companies that want to see me lined up against the wall.
Yeah, I love that image that you just threw up there, Luke, making it look like ending net neutrality is somehow a bad thing, having special access lanes. Have any of you people ever tried to drive in traffic, in a major city? It sucks. And about a year ago, speaking of Richard Spencer, when I was at NPI's conference a year ago, I drove to Washington D.C. and the Virginia portion of the Beltway in the D.C. area has carpool special access lanes where you pay an extra fee and you don't have to sit in traffic. You can use the fast lanes to get to where you need to go. And I used them, and it was fucking beautiful because instead of having to sit in traffic for 45 minutes, I could get to where I was going in about 10 minutes. Why shouldn't some traffic be prioritized? Is all traffic equal? If a fucking, if like say, emergency responders are trying to connect to each other on a network to save someone's life, don't you think it's a bit more important than your fucking pornography? Don't you think that kind of information should be given a higher priority?
I remember thinking that when the FCC was first given charge of net neutrality, I thought to myself, well, the internet is dead, but at least we don't only have to pay $10 a month for Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, as I pointed out in your Friday stream, Bechtloff, we already have a precedent in American case law that makes net neutrality redundant when it comes to freedom of speech. As I said, the March v. Alabama case back in 1946 established that private entities are not allowed to ban free speech on their property if they happen to hold a monopoly on the means by which speech takes place. And again, that case came about because a Jehovah's Witness was this Jehovah's Witness was giving out religious, literature in this company town, Alabama. The company attempted to use trespassing laws to get her arrested because they owned the sidewalks. She sued, saying that, well, the sidewalks are a public space. Everyone uses them. They're the only means by which I can actually get to people to give them this literature. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, she's right. They own all the sidewalks, and they can't reasonably prevent people from using them for freedom of speech. Now, it'd be one thing, the March for the Alabama president means that, I couldn't burst into Bechtloff's home and start blaring, a Blair White video or something. I couldn't start spreading Amish propaganda in the middle of Bechtloff's house. But if you have, but if you have a public, but if you own a space, but you're renting it out to the public, encouraging the public to use it, the case established that you can't arbitrarily decide that certain uses of it that aren't already illegal are not allowed, which is precisely what Twitter and Google and Facebook and all these other companies are doing. They want to be platforms that dominate our lives in every way possible. Not only essential apps that do all of our important tasks, but they spy on us. They listen to us while we're having sex with our wives. They offer personalized advertising after reading our Facebook messages, private messages, all this stuff. And if they want to, pick and choose favorites when it comes to the sorts of political views that they allow, that is actually unconstitutional under American law. And the fact that this hasn't been broached in a lawsuit against any of these companies just yet, this speaks to A, how ill-informed the public is, and B, just how fucking useless the government is. We don't need net neutrality laws for this. All net neutrality is it's corporate welfare, as Waffly will put it in the comments. It's Facebook and Twitter and Google trying to give themselves a discount on bandwidth.
Yeah, basically. And remember, all these guys that are saying, Twitter should be able to ban you for being to the right of Karl Marx are the same guys that insist that, a baker has to bake a dildo cake for a faggot. When, there's a whole lot of bakers in town. There isn't a whole lot of Twitters.
Yeah, I mean, I was arguing with someone who was all like, well, if you don't like the app, Twitter, etc., they ban you, you can go use another app. It's like, or you can build your own app. The internet's free. You can be an entrepreneur. It's like, oh, really, huh? Like for example, the Daily Stormer are being chased off of every registrar in existence. They've gone through what, a dozen new URLs since Charlottesville. They just had to open up on another new URL just now. Should Andrew Anglin be forced to build his own ICANN accredited registrar so that won't ban him? I hate to tell you, Pat Dickinson already floated the idea of doing that. It would cost several $1 million. Gab is a replacement for Twitter. Gab has been banned from both Apple's and Google's mobile stores, which is crippling the site's growth because it's extremely difficult now for them to get their app into the hands of mobile users. And Google and Apple is allowed to do this because, well, they're the only two mobile providers of consequence in the world. There is no free market. There is no free market of ideas. We live in crony corporate capitalism. We are living basically in the Gilded Age.
And I'm not big on, when it comes to monopolies, I'm not all that big on generally breaking them up. I understand why maybe that is necessary at times, but part of me always feels like that's punishing a winner. And I don't like that. That's just vehemently not what America is. And also, at times, people are monopolies. Companies end up monopolies because they all have built an industry. That's happened several times in American history where that industry basically wouldn't exist or wouldn't exist in any big form without that company having basically built it. I don't like the idea of, yeah, you came along, you built this industry, you made it indispensable, but now we're going to break you up. I don't like that idea. That said, though, if you are a monopoly, there's a certain responsibility. The power company doesn't get to shut off my power because they don't like that I made a communist cry. That doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I respect the fact that companies like Google and Twitter and Facebook, they built up a service where there was no service. They made something that has become, for better or worse, indispensable in a lot of people's lives when it just wasn't there before they came along, or it wasn't there in any big way.
They basically invented an internet utility.
So I respect that. So I don't necessarily want to break up Google or Facebook. I just want them to act right. So, yeah, I'm all for treating them like utilities. Where no, you can't throw people off your platforms. You can't deplatform people arbitrarily. You can't give them no recourse and just permanent lifetime bans for nothing. Essentially, you can't be doing that shit.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that, well, basically what's happening here is that the left realized that they would never be able to get a hate speech law passed in the U.S. like they would in other countries, because we've got the Constitution and the First Amendment to protect our freedom of speech. So instead of just trying to ban hate speech as they did in Canada or Australia or Britain, they decided to do an end run around the Constitution by taking control of the corporations that govern how, provide the means by which people speak, and then just censor people off of those platforms, which is perfectly within the rules of the free market, because then they're going to say, well, Printer's a private company. They can do whatever they want.
Which, again, is so it's so inconsistent. It's not even like they take the true, I guess almost ANCAP position of this is a private company and can do what they want, because I tend to lean a little bit towards freedom of association myself. But again, these are the same people that insist you need to bake a dildo cake or we'll take away your bakery.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just tech companies. They've converged tons of corporations like this. Like the NFL got fucking converged. You got all these faggot players who are taking the knee because they were so, because black people are so oppressed, blah, blah, blah. Or the fact that, you mentioned baking the cake, the dildo cake, Bechtloff. Why does every corporation support fag marriage all of a sudden? Like 2 years ago, I remember when, gay marriage was legalized. Suddenly you see rainbow fucking, advertisements and gay dudes hugging each other in bank advertisements everywhere. Yeah. You would have never seen that 10 years ago.
Farm like goldfish crackers with like rainbow pause flavor on them.
Oh, and here's another recent example. This was a report saying Moody's is actually declaring that they're going to downgrade the credit ratings of municipalities and states that aren't preparing for climate change. So basically, what's happening now is that if you live in a municipality or a state that thinks climate change is bullshit, you're going to have your credit ruined by Moody's. And again, people can't press about this because Moody's is a private business. They're not being forced to do whatever. Again, they're not just doing an end run around the Constitution in this case. They're doing an end run around the electoral process. Because even if you elect Republicans now and politicians who don't kowtow to the climate change cult, you'll still be subject to it because Moody's will otherwise wreck your municipality's credit rating, and you won't be able to secure loans, and you won't be able to sell bonds, and you won't be able to obtain the money necessary to keep the lights on.
You're dead right. I've heard it said before, we live in a cyberpunk dystopia minus the cool parts. We don't have flying cars or sex robots well, actually, I guess the sex robots are coming, but we don't have flying cars. We don't have, Spider-Man 2099 swinging around. We don't have Blade Runner shit. All we got is just the worst parts of it.
Yeah, we don't have the flying cars. We don't have the sex robots.
Yeah, we don't have any of the cool parts of this cyberpunk dystopia. Just inevitably the chip in your eye that makes sure What was it Sam Hyde said in his epic trolling speech? State-enforced homosexuality? Well, here it's coming.
I don't know. They'll probably be proposing that in a couple of years in California. They'll also have the door-to-door rape squads. Only they'll be called same love tolerance compliance squads.
Oh.
No. I have moved so far to the right on questions like that in the last few years from where I was. I used to just be so like, I don't care. Oh, are we gonna have gay marriage? Be like, fine, whatever. I don't care. Can we audit the Fed?
Well, to be
And-
more accurate, we haven't moved right. We've been violently pushed to the right.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't like, oh, my bedroom, my business. Yeah, that's fine until your bedroom's on my fucking front lawn or something. You know, I don't want to have to worry about other people's private business, but it's rapidly reaching a point where I have to. You ever see that meme of like the Pepe the Frog is hanging the SJW, and he's looking at her like, "Why did you make me do this? I just wanted to play video games." That's what it's reaching. Like, why did you make me do this? I was fine with live and let live. But that had to be a two-way street. Oh, good old Big Red. It's almost hard to believe that's a real person. It's so like iconic. It's almost like a cartoon character in my head. Look at the dead eyes and the gaping mouth and shit like that.
Have either of you actually have either of you seen the movie The Red Pill, the documentary about the men's rights movement?
I have not, no.
She appears at the end of it actually as an interview subject.
Really?
Oh yes. I didn't spoil that when I first reviewed the movie, but it's been out for over a year now, so whatever. But that interview is hilarious because she looks legitimately mentally insane. She's quivering. She looks like she's about to stab the interviewer in the throat. Like the videos, all the memes of her, like that wasn't just a bad moment in her life. That's how she actually is.
I've said this numerous times on here, and I realize people get nervous in front of cameras and people have bad moments, and everybody spurgs out once in a while. Once in a while somebody pushes your buttons in just the right way and you flip your shit. Everybody does that. It happens. But generally speaking, if you just look at the body language and facial expressions of somebody, you're going to learn more about them than any word coming out of their mouth could tell you. You have all these instincts in the back of your head designed to learn about other people just by looking at them. Body language and facial expressions are an older language than the spoken word itself. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't get why you're so hard on this or that person," and I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you try muting their videos and tell me what you feel looking at them? Then get back to me. Let's see. What's going on in the chat here? Somebody says, "No hymen, no diamond." That's
Which anyone else find it interesting that all these alt media right wing women are suddenly becoming white nationalists now? Like in the past week, you had both Blonde in the Belly of the Beast and Faith Goldie come out against civic nationalism.
I hadn't really heard that.
Oh yeah, probably Lauren Southern will be somewhere down on the list as well. I mean, I know she got into a scuffle with Richard Spencer over identitarianism. But these people just they stick their finger in the wind and figure out which way the wind's blowing. So,
are you suggesting that Lauren Southern is not a serious political commentator who we should all listen to?
Yeah, I'm verbally raping her right now with my words.
She's got a lot of pay piggies that are going to come after you there.
Yeah, white knights assemble.
Speaking of shameless shilling, I have a sponsor. So let me bring up the ad copy here. Also, if you enjoy the show, you'll see there's the PayPal. You can send me a one-time donation. And also the Patreon, where you can become a regular supporter. Again, if you enjoy the show, That helps me keep doing what I'm doing. Send me some shekels. I don't know. Maybe I'll set up a wish list too. You can buy me shit too. I just feel weird about doing that though. Like part of me wants to because I do recognize that it is a quite brilliant and legitimate tax dodge. But at the same time, I feel like Lord Southern when I'm doing that. And that's not a good feeling. All right, so sponsor. Christmas is not just around. Oh no, wait. This is the old ad copy because I'm retarded. How about that? I'm bringing up the old ad copy. Holy shit, Christmas is just around the corner, and now your procrastinating ass is going to pay. Thankfully, due to capitalist entrepreneurs and technology largely invented by white men, you don't have to go out and shop with the normies. You can do all your shopping online. And what better gift to give than Aaron Clary's books? Bachelor Pad Economics, Worthless, Enjoy the Decline, Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty, Curse of the High IQ, Reconnaissance Man, or Poor Richard's Retirement. All of them will earn you back 10 times what you paid for them in life savings, high earnings, and decades of youth not wasted. So give loved ones or yourself the gift of older brother wisdom. Buy Aaron Clary's books today on Amazon.com in paperback, Kindle, or audio format. So there we go.
Aaron Clary. He's not an asshole. He just plays one on TV.
He's really not. He's so much fucking nicer than his persona. Let's see. People are arguing over whether or not to marry a virgin in the chat. The arguments that pop up in the chat are so he says only a virgin would want a virgin. Who the fuck wants an inexperienced girl with zero knowledge of how to satisfy a man? Again, proof you are pathetic. I don't think it's really all that difficult to satisfy a man, if you ask me. I mean,
it's called training. It's called breaking him in.
I mean, it seems like, you just kind of like you suck his dick and you make him a sandwich. I mean, that's a good start right there.
I mean, what percentage of your life are you going to be having sex, honestly?
All day, every day, I would hope.
Yeah, really. Hopefully as high as possible. Am I right?
Well, considering all that's involved, I mean, you're really expecting to have 50% of your married life to be having sex?
A man can dream. Yeah, obviously you want to find a woman you actually have a connection with and make a good wife, good mother if you want to have kids. That's obviously more important. But, I mean, look, unless you have some sort of psychological problem, like it's too much of a cold fish or something, most women would be fine, all right? It's just, call me crazy, but I like my women like I like my coffee without another man's penis in it.
I think we most like most things without another man's penis in it.
Yeah, that's I like my women like I like basically everything else. Somebody in the chat says, like the saying goes, worst sex I ever had wasn't that bad. I mean, it is like pizza, even when it's not particularly good, kind of hungover, it's still pizza.
As for Waffle, no, I haven't noticed that the Czech Republic is trying to add their equivalent of the Second Amendment to their constitution. But I think that's pretty awesome.
I'd add the Second Amendment to the world if I could.
Now
that would be the only rule that applies to all nations.
Now the Eastern European countries are getting pretty base these days. The Czech Republic elected a populist tycoon. Poland's doing good. Hungary's doing good. So Austria's doing good. Slovakia's kind of slacking behind, but just slap those peasants around and get them in line. Romania looks like they're getting with the program. Good times all around in Eastern Europe.
Speaking of not getting with the program, as we used to say in that, Forey and I were both in a private Facebook group that got showed, and I really miss it. I really miss it. There's somebody else started another group, but it's just not the same. But some of the guys in that group used to post articles of some mildly leftist person would go off the plantation a little bit, and they'd call it not getting with the program du jour. So in that spirit, not getting with the program, did you know that actress Angela Lansbury, you may remember her from Murder, She Wrote. There was that Disney movie where she was a witch or something. I'm blanking on the name, but whatever. You know who Angela Lansbury is. She came out and reminded the world she's not dead yet by saying, all these actresses whining about that they had to suck Harvey Weinstein's dick, yeah, they bear responsibility because they went and sucked Harvey Weinstein's dick.
Oh,
She was, they bear responsibility. None of them were actually raped. They need to just own up to their end of things. So, yeah. I look forward to the inevitable rape accusation coming up against Angela Lansbury now. That somebody's going to drum up.
oh, great!
Pull that out of thin air.
Oh, so Mrs. Potts is base now.
How about that? Oh, that's right. She was in Beauty and the Beast. I almost forgot about that.
The good one, not the new one.
Yeah, not that. Dude, the furniture and like all the living furniture in the new Beauty and the Beast looks so creepy as fuck. Like you could just change the music and that would be like a terrible horror movie in that trailer. Oh, geez. Yeah, look at that, man. Whenever I see like the actual moving on the face in that too, it's horrifying.
What the fuck is that?
First of all, that doesn't look like the cartoon at all brought to live action because the spout is supposed to be the nose. It's not supposed to just be this creepy moving face on the side of it. But also, it's a creepy face. They remind me of those like wooden baby carvings in that House on the Haunted Hill remake. Ugh. Oh no, not how. Was it? Or was it The Haunting? The one with Owen Wilson. Was that House on the Haunted Hill or was that The Haunting? I'm blanking on it. No, but whatever. There was like these creepy baby wood carvings in the mansion that would like come to life and be screaming at you and shit. And it was the only scary part of the movie. The movie itself was ass. But those things, every time they moved, I was like, oh, dude, turn it off. That's no. That's a whole lot of no.
Yeah, Christian's got a question for us. He asked us if we heard about Texas University paper that called for white genocide by calling for an end to white DNA. I haven't heard of it. Have you?
I saw it bounced around Facebook. Your DNA is an abomination. And I just, like, don't send kids to university is the only thing I'm going to say. Like, what else am I going to say? Like, these institutions need to be burnt to the ground.
Well, they say shit like that, and it just pushes everyone else further to the right. It's like that guy, Tim Wise, the Jewish anti-racism activist from the South. He was going off on Twitter about how if Alabama elects Roy Moore, that decent people should not spend a dime in that state. Let's do a black-owned business. We need to burn white Alabama to the ground like we should have done 150 years ago. And I'm like, dude, you sound exactly like the Jewish telecaster in the Turner Diaries, who, after learning that New York City and Israel have been nuked, starts pounding his chest and shrieking in Hebrew. You sound like a neo-Nazi caricature of what Jews are like. Except this guy's not a caricature. He's supposedly a real human being.
Also, America did try to burn Alabama to the ground 150 years ago. It's why they're so mad down there still. But yeah, fuck these people. And again, with the university stuff, it's like, I realize a lot of people are like, this is so shocking. Like, nothing they do at the university shocks me anymore. Like and maybe I'm tempting fate by even saying this, but I don't believe they can shock me anymore. All right. At this point, like, I keep seeing all this and everyone's like, I'm so outraged. And I'm just like so numb to it at this point. I'm like, why don't y'all wake me when we're going to start hanging them? I'll take off work for that day. All right. Like, let me know when we're going to just start hanging them. and we're going to just march into one of these. I nominate Penn State to be the first one personally, but that's just because fuck those guys. But yeah, let me know when we're just going to burn one of these institutions to the ground. How about that? You know, when we're just going to fire up the helicopters, because I don't know what else to say about it anymore. Like, yeah, you know.
I encourage them to keep running their mouths because it will just, you know, increase the Republicans' majority at the next election.
Oh, but yeah, by all means. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't pay attention to it. Don't pass it along to your normie friends and all. But at the same time, I just personally don't have anything more to say on it anymore because it's like none of it surprises me. I'm just looking at it like, yeah, I know what they are.
Yeah. Christian has another question for me. He's like, thoughts on moving to Vienna, Forney? I don't know, man. You know, I haven't been to Austria yet. Austria is far better off than the other Western European countries. It's not absolutely full of migrants, and they have elected a nationalist government that will be taking power next month. But the problem with Vienna and Austria is the same as all the other Western European countries. It's really fucking expensive. Western Europe, on average, is probably about the same cost of living as New York City or any major city. You've possibly a bit more expensive. I don't think it's as expensive as the Scandinavian countries. Those are really fucking expensive. When I went to Stockholm earlier in the year to speak at Arctus's conference, like for example, a bottle of water in Stockholm is $3. If you want to ride the metro, it's $6. The subway. If you want, what's another example? A bottle of beer at a bar costs about $10, $11, $12. And that's like the bottom shelf beer. The good stuff is more like 15. So I don't think Vienna is as expensive to that, but I wouldn't recommend going to Austria when there are plenty of countries in Eastern Europe that are just as safe, just as pleasant to live in, but don't cost nearly as much. You cross the border into Hungary, and the cost of living drops by about 2/3. So.
Somebody in the chat is saying, "Where's Common Filth?" I don't really know.
Well, he's doing the nostalgia wound videos, which are really good.
His nostalgia wound video is great. There's some of the best. I mentioned this yesterday. There's some of the best gaming channels out there. I mean, our gaming videos out there.
I like to think that he just quit social media because he realized that it was kind of pointless, and that's part why I've sort of backed away from politics and being involved on social media and this stuff too, because it doesn't benefit you in terms of increasing your audience. Getting obsessed into it just leads you down the rabbit holes of drama and stress. Like shitposting on a certain level, getting banned from Twitter a year ago was a blessing in disguise because it sort of freed me from having to be involved in a lot of this nonsense involving the alt media now. I can just, it's not my problem anymore. Not my people, not my problem. And I'm much happier for it. I think I'd like to think that Common Philip realized the same thing. He's a lot happier if he doesn't have to deal with all these alt-right idiots. Just turn off the social media and do your thing with doing his thing with the video games, and I'm thinking he's in a lot better. He's in a far better place now.
The only thing I regret is that when I lost Twitter, I lost the best means I had to contact both Common Filth and Razorfist to invite them on. So that kind of sucked. But and Twitter did bring some good. It brought a lot of good live traffic to the shows. I did seem to have a good amount of fans following me on Twitter, and I kind of miss Twitter, but oh well. You know, I still have a shit posting troll account on there to keep track of some things, but I barely do anything with it.
Yeah. Young Jacobson asks, Forney, what is it like being an expat? Not having a second amendment bothers me, but lots of other countries seem like nice places to live. I like it. You know, I mean, the Second Amendment thing kind of annoys me, but these countries are so safe that you don't really feel the need to. You don't have to carry a gun in a place like Hungary. You don't have to carry a gun in a place like Poland. You know, the fact that we even need concealed carry on a certain level in the States is indicative of a certain fundamental failure at the heart of our civilization. But I like living in Budapest. I like being able to roll out of bed at noon, you know, walk around a nice, clean city that doesn't have any migrants. I don't got black people asking me for $2 to ride the bus. I don't have beggars, clawing at me. The food is good. You can get all sorts of nice. Budapest is pretty cosmopolitan. Like today, I actually ordered from a Russian restaurant. I had blinis and some of those stuffed shell things with the meat inside them. You can order sushi for about $7. It's very, very nice. Some things annoy me, like bad mail service. The sun setting at 3:30 in the afternoon in the winter is kind of annoying. But all the stuff, they're great trade-offs. For a country full of beautiful women, low cost of living, beautiful architecture, it's great. I recommend every man, spend at least a portion of his life living abroad, just to see what a country outside of the U.S. or Canada in cases is like.
So in the chat asks, pardon me, Bechtloff, what do you think about PragerU? The videos are fine. It's a bit normie conservative at times, but they're fine. What I will say that's very good is I don't know if they were thrown off YouTube or just demonetized too much or something, but Prager's bringing a lawsuit against Google, and it's about time that somebody went and did this. Somebody with the means. I mean, I can think of quite a few other people who, if it turned class action, would hop in with them.
Well, anyone who's been, unjustly banned from any of these sites has a cause to sue under Marsh v. Alabama. So,
honestly, if I won the lottery and I could just afford a lawyer and not have to worry about, money and just be like, go do this, I don't even, and not get, just not have to worry about it. Because, I mean, I don't have the money to pursue this sort of thing. But I'd sue Twitter. Fuck it. Yeah. I can't even get a straight answer as to what tweet violated the rules. So fuck it. Yeah, I'd sue Twitter.
I think it's coming. These companies are going to get their comeuppance. I mean, with Ajit Pai announcing, like I said earlier, yesterday, he actually called out Twitter and said that called them out for. He's the chair of the FCC. He called them out for censoring right wingers. He called Google out for censoring right wingers, and the left absolutely freaked out at this. Sleeping Giants, which is the left-wing pressure group that got several of Breitbart's ads pulled, they were freaking out because they think the FCC is going to force companies like Twitter to, quote-unquote, stop enforcing their hate speech policies.
Good. I hope they do. This is such utter bullshit. Until you can prove somebody's actually harassing somebody or there's death threats or whatever, which they ignore from the left, I might add. No, fuck this hate speech shit. Fuck, say what you will about Milo Yiannopoulos, but that is a actual major fucking journalist who was thrown off of Twitter because he called some ugly she-boon ugly. He called an actress ugly, who I might add is insanely fucking ugly. All right, let's be real here. I'm not a 1488er who thinks all black women look terrible. Most I don't find attractive, if I'm going to be honest with you. But there's quite a few I wouldn't mind making a mulatto with. All right. But Leslie Jones is one of the most hideous fucking she-beasts I've ever seen in my life. I'd sooner put my dick in a hornet's nest.
Google search is not helping.
Don't put her picture up, please.
That's like the most flattering picture you could probably find of her, too.
Oh, God.
Fucking Harambe.
Harambe is risen. Dick's out.
I tell you.
I
had a bad dream once that they remade Ghostbusters with 3 lesbians and a gorilla. Thank God that never happened.
Yeah, it's like that rumor about how there was a 4th Indiana Jones movie where he survives a nuclear explosion by hiding in a fridge. Just this horrible rumor. This horrible, sick rumor. Christian asks, Forney, have you considered applying for Hungarian citizenship and thoughts on the restoration of the Habsburgs? Well, I'm actually leaving Hungary at the end of January, so that would be kind of pointless Not that I don't like it here. It's just it's time to move on. I'm going to be moving to either Poland or Ukraine most likely. So, and as for the restoration of the Habsburgs, honestly, I don't see the monarchies coming back. I mean, you get the case of Prince Harry and marrying this washed up half black movie actress. The royals in Britain are a fucking joke. The royals of all these countries are a fucking joke. I think it was ever the prince of the current king of Belgium or the Netherlands who married another foreigner in that same vein, some ugly Argentine chick. They're acting no better than the plebes at this point, so really, if they go, I'm not going to be missing too much. Yeah, and this should irritate you too, Bechtloff. Prince Harry's a redhead, so he's ensuring that those redhead genes will not be passed on.
Yeah, he's not happy about that.
He's lowering himself to fornicating with a mudblood.
But then again, he is of the royal family, so he's probably those redhead genes are probably also inbred. So maybe it's good that they're getting weeded out.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago was when what's-her-face, Princess Diana, got in that car crash after sucking the dick of some Turk, so...
Luca decided to throw up one of the scenes from the 2016 Ghostbusters there, I see. I'm not sure which scene that is. Maybe that's one of the deleted scenes, but... that's before they got their proton packs, I guess. How long have we been going on here? Probably about an hour, I think.
Yeah, about an hour.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'll wrap this up then. I know Forney's probably got to get to bed. I think it's like 4 a.m. there or something.
It's only 3, but still pretty late.
They're making a cartoon based off the 2016 Ghostbusters. I just saw that, Luke.
That was what was that 1996 version?
Well, no, the one with the gorilla that was out around the same time as the movies and the cartoon. Because for those of you that don't know, a little geek moment there. When they made the Ghostbusters movie, the guys making it didn't realize that there was a show called Ghostbusters from like the 60s with like 2 dudes and a monkey or something. So they made a deal with that company where they could just use the name, like they paid them a certain amount. So when the movie was really big, they revived that as a cartoon. So that's why the Ghostbusters cartoon that's based off the movies is called The Real Ghostbusters, because there was already the shitty Ghostbusters cartoon with the monkey, which that confused me a lot as a kid. I'm like, why are there 2 different Ghostbusters cartoons, and why is one of them awful?
Yeah, the sad part is that I know all that, and the reason I know all that is because of Chris Chan.
Really?
He's actually a very big fan of Filmation's Ghostbusters.
Of course he is. Of course he's a fan of the shitty one.
And oddly enough, I know this because of Movie Bob.
Well, Movie Bob's quite the repository of useless information. I mean, before he went full fucking Stalin gulag, his videos were halfway entertaining. I actually liked his video on the Street Sharks back in the day, because it's like something I kind of remember but know nothing about, so it was sort of an interesting video. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank y'all. Thank both of you for being on.
You're welcome.
Good little spur of the moment show here. And like I said earlier, there's the sponsor down below. If you enjoy the show, check out the sponsor, check out the Patreon, check out the PayPal. And at the very least, if you're not listening live, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. That helps out. So that's all we got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening. Bechtloff out.